Thanks for listening to the Youthology Podcast with Jeff Grinnell. Be sure to check out all of our available resources on Facebook, Instagram, or online at youthology.com. Now, let's jump into the podcast.
This week on the podcast, we are dealing with the topic of increasing prayer in youth ministry, building a culture of prayer in youth ministry. I'm so excited about this topic because we haven't dealt with this topic much alone. There've been podcasts and there's been sessions where we would deal with prayer, but not entirely. And so it comes on the heels of a new movement and a new effort that we've been working on over the last 7 years, since 2013, that many of you have heard about. And now we're going to make it much more official and take it to the next level, actually. About 7 years ago, 2013, God put on my heart to raise up 1,000 teenagers who would fast and pray every Friday at lunch. Okay? Many of you are doing that already, but what we're doing now is we're trying to take that to the next level, organize it a little bit more, and see what happens in the next year with it. And so what we're doing is we're trying to take that 1,000. We've actually got about 1,100, just over 1,100, who are committed to it and fasting and praying every Friday at lunch right now. We're wanting to take that number to 5,000 by the end of 2020. I know that might sound like a large goal to some of you. Others are like, oh, are you kidding? It's a no-brainer. We totally can do that. So what we're doing is beginning an effort tonight. We've started a brand new Instagram page. Some of you have seen it this weekend. It just came out over the weekend. And so what's happening is if you would just go to the Instagram page at the American Christian Teenager, at the American Christian Teenager. Join that page if you are willing to commit to 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Friday to fast and pray for an awakening in America. And the way we're doing it is that page will be set up weekly with your stories, pictures from your school. Maybe if you're off school, it's with your friends at the park or at a coffee shop or at home or some, prayer meeting at the youth group or whatever. And what we're trying to do is to populate that page this year with 5,000 students. And what I'm going to do, and then guests, I've already got 2 emails that have come in from guests who are going to write on this also. We're going to post every Thursday like a plan, a strategy, a theme, a topic for that following Friday. So you'll get that every Thursday. But then throughout the week, we're going to post everything on prayer. The whole IG page is going to be on prayer, okay? So please join us there. You'll see it on the bottom of the screen right there, at the American Christian Teenager, okay? And then you start using the hashtag and all that too. And again, 5,000 by the end of the year. So how do we get there? I want to give you 2 things that I believe will begin to grow the culture of prayer in youth ministry. Number 1, the private life of the youth leader, youth pastor, paid or volunteer, and youth leadership team, okay? So think about that. If we do not model prayer as leaders, it will not become the makeup of our group. Okay, you feel that? If we do not model prayer and spiritual discipline, I'm going to kind of broaden that. You'll see that in a minute. As a leader and as a leadership team, then it's going to be very difficult for you to convince teenagers to run with prayer themselves personally. And so let me give you a few ways to do that. Number 1, your personal prayer, not your public or your corporate prayer, your personal prayer. When are you praying? I have a time that has been set aside for over 17 years or so, okay, that I've set aside. I pray the same time every single day. How about you? When is yours? Oftentimes when I talk to leaders and they say, and I ask them, when are you praying? And they'll say something like, oh, well, sometimes I pray in the morning, sometimes I pray in the evening. And what I find out is they don't have a prayer ethic. They have a prayer emergency, right? And so the schedule takes over. They forget, and they really don't have a prayer discipline. So setting your own personal discipline time. Secondly, under this area of the leader's private life and prayer, okay, modeling prayer, is your reading of the Bible. Consistent reading of the Bible, because prayer and reading the Bible go hand in hand, don't they? Oftentimes when I don't know what to pray, I pray the word and I just read the word back, Third is fasting. Oh man, critical that you are fasting. I fast every Friday. I've been doing that for many, many years, and then that's why I think the Lord put on my heart to call teenagers to do the same thing. So I fast the whole day on Friday, but we're asking students to join us in just lunch hour, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Kind of skip mystery meat at school, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so you as a leader, when are you fasting? So that comes up in your conversation, or it comes up in your prayer. And I know, listen, I get it. Matthew 5 says we're not supposed to do that openly. We're not supposed to go into street corners. We're not supposed to use flowery language. I get that, but we're modeling it in this moment, okay? So that's why I'm sharing that. So your own personal prayer, your personal reading, and your personal fasting, okay? So those three spiritual disciplines will help you as a leader and your adult team challenge take this podcast, take this this video or the manuscript, the three different ways you can see it, take it to your leaders and share it with them, and ask your leaders, we are going to model this first and then build it, first personally and then build it publicly in the youth ministry. And that leads me to my second point. Let me give you one more point on how to build a culture of prayer in youth ministry. Number one, the youth leader, the youth leadership team. Number two, you have to bring a priority in the public sense of the youth ministry. And what I mean by that is your youth service, your small groups, your events, whatever, all the different ministries that you have. If you are not putting aside a priority for prayer during the meeting, during the gathering, during the rally, whatever you want to call it, then it's not going to happen. So here's an idea. I'm going to give you a couple of them, two of them, but here's the first one. Take your cue, take your planning center, take your outline or, the flow of the service, take it and rip it up. Just tear it up. Just tear it up. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Okay? I'm going to tell you how to build a better one. Instead of putting everything else on there, and then maybe opening in prayer or closing in prayer, I want you to put 2 moments of prayer or 2 sessions within that hour that you have, 90 minutes that you have, or whatever you have. Put 2 moments of prayer in there and then build everything else around it. Build your opener, build your game, build your small group, build your message, build your worship around those 2 moments of prayer. So that might look like, at the end of a worship set, you having a 10-minute time of prayer where students are praying for each other. That might look like at the end of a message, you take 10 minutes and you're praying for the content of the message. Or maybe you're into small groups, but you end small groups or begin small groups, just like we did with worship, begin prayer, end prayer, with worship with a prayer time. Okay, so you follow me? You're getting rid of planning center. You're getting rid of your strategy, your flow of the service, your outline, whatever you call that. I call it a cue. You get rid of your cue. You put 2 times of prayer in there, and you build your youth service setting around that. Okay, so I think that will help. Second corporate thing is so the first one's emphasis, and the second one is actually teaching and preaching on prayer. Listen, I told all of my students, if I don't teach you how to pray as a youth pastor, I've failed you. I have failed you if I do not teach you how to pray. And I can tell you, if you go back to the students who attended our youth ministry, prayer and worship was a major part. The scriptures, theology was a major part of what we did. So I just want to challenge you in those two things: your personal worship with your team, you and your team, your personal worship, prayer, worship, and fasting, and then the public, those 3 public prayer and worship and fasting, giving that a priority in youth ministry. Okay, So, man, I hope that was a blessing to you. One of the things that you can do is to go to our social media and look at the link tree in our bio. The link tree will take you to all of these formats. It will take you to our YouTube page. Please subscribe to us, okay? Subscribe to the YouTube page. We really want to grow that. That's where all of our ministry resources are at right now anyway. Or it'll take you to our iTunes podcast. Or it will take you to youthology.com, where this manuscript will be. And I'm going to beef up, if you know and you've ever followed the manuscripts, I beef those up a little bit and make sure that there's more content on the manuscript than we give here. Because I know your time is valuable to you, it's valuable to us. And so we keep these podcasts between 10 and 12 minutes. That's where they're going to be. And right now we're at like 10 and a half. We're almost to 11 or so. So here's all you got to do. Go to our social media, go to the link in the bio, to the link tree, and join us in one of those other formats. You can listen on iTunes, you can watch at YouTube, or you can read it at the manuscript at youthology.com. Okay, so thank you for joining Youthology Resources again on our weekly podcast. And if you want to build a culture of prayer in youth ministry, just listen to this and put it into practice. Okay, God bless you. Have a great